Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. We are going to just take a minute, let everyone get all settled in, and we will start our webinar. All right, so as you're all coming in, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Let us know your name, let us know where you're coming from. It's always really interesting to see all the different places you all are kind of tuning in from. So please feel free to use that chat feature. Let us know who you are, let us know where you're tuning in from. Maybe we're living in the same areas. All right. Okay, wonderful. Oops, don't look ahead. Let me get situated. Okay. All right, so once again, welcome everyone. Please feel free to share where you're tuning in from. Let us know where you're coming from. Wow, okay, there's people from all over, Sutter Creek, Santa Cruz County, hello. Los Angeles, I'm in Los Angeles as well. Nice to see you all here. Okay, let's get this back up. All right. Okay, so let's get started with our webinar today. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Again, please feel free to share where you're from. Don't let me talking deter you away from that. Please share where you're from, share your name. We love to see where everyone's coming from and who's tuning in today. So please continue to do that. But in the meantime, I just kind of want to give us some logistics before I get into introduction. So our webinar will be held from 5:30 to 6:30 today, and it will be recorded. So if you do have to head out early, or if you just cannot get enough and you want to watch the webinar again, it will be uploaded onto the California Native Plant Society YouTube channel. So check back there in a couple of days for our recording. Okay, so we will be using the chat feature again to just share general thoughts or where you're all coming from, but please use that Q&A feature for any direct questions that you have, so we can keep good track of those and make sure we're getting to your questions and giving you those answers. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us for this evening's webinar. My name is Jen. I am the Community Education Coordinator with the California Native Plant Society, and we're so excited to have you here today to learn more about community science and its connection to native plants. So as I mentioned, we are recording the webinar, so just know that. But today we'll be diving into, again, the topic of community science, which you can see so broadly displayed here. And community science can happen in many forms, which we'll hear about today from our fabulous speakers. But overall, it just kind of provides the general public with the opportunity to contribute, to have kind of direct contribution to scientific research, increasing their own knowledge about science and what's around them, and just really allowing folks to enjoy nature and the plants and bugs and birds that are all around them. So it just kind of really brings in that accessible and fun way of interacting that all people can enjoy. So there are some kind of larger community science projects that people can participate in, but there are also opportunities to practice our community scientist skills within our own garden spaces, which we'll talk a little bit more about as we get into our webinar. So big or small, whatever size your garden space is or wherever you call home, those areas are contributing to California's rich biodiversity. So community science is a great way, a great outlet to interact with that biodiversity that those gardens are attracting. All right, so we are going to get into our presenters, fabulous presenters joining us here today. So first up, we'll have Ashley Borrego. Then we'll follow up with Jose Esparza Aguirre and Alexis Sadron. So let's start with Ashley. So Ashley is a graduate from California State University, Long Beach, go Beach, I also went there, with a degree in communication studies. Beginning with summer camping trips with her family to the crisp Sierra mountaintops, she has developed her appreciation and participation with nature. So working as an eco-communicator, she builds a bridge between science and accessible themes by helping people see nature as a part of themselves. She hopes we can do all we can where we are to support our neighbors, plants, and animal relatives that we share the earth with. So I'm going to hand over the presentation to Ashley, and thanks, Ashley, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share with you all about the amazing work we were able to do with milkweed and monarchs. I'm trying to just share my screen currently, but it looks like I'm having a little trouble doing that. It says host disabled.
You should be able to now, Ashley. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. Perfect. Okay, nice. So hello everyone, welcome. This is the work I've been able to do with my good friend Leslie Ramirez. We co-led and co-built this project. This was the first year of our project. It is ongoing currently, so you can definitely get involved. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the findings aren't concluded yet, so we're still looking at things that we're going to talk about today. But it was powered through Santa Monica Mountains Foundation, the nonprofit partner for Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, and Mountain Resource Conservation, which is their logo right here, partly with the state. So what we were able to do is it was a youth-led volunteer program to support monarch habitat by collecting, cleaning, and growing narrowleaf milkweed seeds in the Santa Monica Mountains from summer to early fall. So we were out from the summer to early fall, which was a little hot, but that is when the milkweed is in bloom. It's going to seed. So that's when we were out there. Those are pictures of us with some of our awesome volunteers who came back time and time again to help us out collecting milkweed seed. What we would do is we would put little mesh organza bags over the seed pods right before they were going to pop. And then we would collect the ones that had popped or collect the ones that were ready and ripe to go. So this is definitely a youth-led project. From planning, youth definitely did all the GIS work, which was so nice because I don't have a science background. I don't know what GIS is when I first started this project. So it was really nice having Tack and Ray help us find those points, and then that we could expand on those points as well. We tried to grow habitats to support the monarch populations in the Santa Monica Mountains. There are overwintering sites here. There's also a ton of milkweed meadows here. So we wanted to ensure that we were making those sites or checking in with those sites that they were really pretty and perfect, perfect for a pollinator party, like I like to say. So we went out and checked on the seeds so that way we could grow more of these milkweed plants to put in for restoration and such. You can get involved with upcoming events at their Samo Fund Get Outdoors online calendar. Up in the summer, there should be events coming up then. So this is just the amount of seed that we were able to collect from different park sites. The levels vary, depend on how big those sites are, but also the amount of volunteers we were able to get there. So the amount of community we were able to take into these sites. Certain places were a little bit harder to get to for safety and reasons. Parking, we didn't want to take folks too far off the trail or too far away from main trailheads, just for safety and if in case anybody needs to turn back or something like that. But we wanted to be mindful of everybody. So our goal for this project, the community science project, was not only to collect and clean the seeds and grow the seeds, but was also to look at the human interaction of cutting down the plant during fall dormancy. Sorry. So in the fall, the milkweed goes dormant, or the growth of the plant, the essence of the plant turns back into the roots. And then in the spring, it'll come back up again. And traditionally that process, or traditionally indigenous people, the Chumash and the Tongva people, the Tataviam closer inland, and many other SoCal tribes and nations would have this interaction with the plant, and they would cut down the plant during fall for fiber. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But leaning into that, I was thinking, let's lean into it and let's really, you know, put numbers to it, because we're out here with this milkweed, we are getting to know it. So let's take a little bit of measurements and let's get to know it, and let's see what it does when we interact with it. Like an old friend would. So the procedure, we measured the 2021 growth as the baseline. We measured the heights of the plant. We measured the transects, which is just the base of the plant one way and the base of the plant the other way. We measured how many stems were present, if they were from this season or the last season, and then sizes of leaf if they were present. Like I said, we were going out in the fall during this time, so some leaves were gone at that time due to weathering. And then the benefits of this project is that it increases genetic biodiversity by increasing how many flowers are out there next season. Or at least that's the hope, that we will increase the flowers next season. And so that way there's more flowers for different pollinators, because the milkweed has to be cross-pollinated by 2 different plants. So that's very important. Shared stewardship. So many folks that came out from the community wanted to plant milkweed in their yards. They wanted to learn more about monarchs and their life cycle and their migration. So it was really awesome to see people connect and see the monarchs in their daily life and realize that they could have a bigger role in supporting them. And like I said, inspire urban restoration by people wanting to plant milkweed in where they are, people wanting to support monarch habitat in their homes. And then technical experience. It was great getting students out as well, because then they could put it on their resume or say, hey, I helped out with this project. Some drawbacks to the community science was materials and supply availability. We only had 2 GPSs when we went out, so that kind of limited how many people we could go with. And also some folks, they were starting or they weren't comfortable using a GPS, so they started using Google Maps, which is fine, but Google Maps works in seconds and minutes versus GPSs work in degrees. So there's the conversion that needs to happen, which isn't too difficult, but just something to be aware of. And then safety, because there's only a couple of us monitoring these groups when we went out, we couldn't monitor every single volunteer, and some of our volunteers were really great. So they wanted to go everywhere, which was great. This is just an image of the different treatment sites that we have. So you can see the pairings, you can see the personalities and the names, which is awesome. Our community members were able to name their pairs, so that way they could track the growth the following year. I love like coyote bush pear. That one's so cute. And then so this whole project, this whole idea comes straight from community science. Milkweed carries such a strong cultural relevance and significance that we understood the need and desire for us to include this in our project. This program builds a bridge by connecting Indigenous people and culture to their plants. We can't talk about plants, native plants, without talking about Indigenous people. They're just so connected, and this milkweed is a great example. It's literally woven together. And then materials from seed bulking beds were donated to local communities. In our nursery, we built beds, raised beds to bulk for seeds, but then all the material at the end of its growing season was donated, which was really awesome. And just an ask is that you support local Indigenous actions where you are, whether it be with like Indigenous Youth Council LA or other organizations. But that is the Salmon Fund Mission Monarch Project. Check out the outdoor calendars for upcoming events, and my email's on there as well if you'd like to get in touch.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing more about that Monarch project. I think a lot of folks that have garden spaces are interested in attracting pollinators like monarchs. So it's just a different viewpoint to how much citizen science can contribute to the numbers of monarch population. All right, you're getting lots of praise. Thank you, Ashley. All right. And next we are going to have Jose present about his work and his projects. So let me give a quick introduction for him. So born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, and raised in the central coast of California, Jose graduated from the University of California, Los Angeles with a BA in Geography and Environmental Studies. Jose is the Community Science Coordinator at the California Native Plant Society and is interested in conservation work with a strong intersection in science, community outreach, and environmental justice. As a way to connect with his environment, he loves to spend time outdoors, hiking, playing soccer, and exploring creative outlets through drawing. So thank you so much, Jose, for joining us today, and take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. It really is a pleasure to be here and talk about community science, what it means to me, and some of the really cool opportunity that we're doing here at CNPS. So let me just go ahead and share my screen here. Here we go. Cool. Okay. So community science, right? Let's see. There we go. What is community science, right? What it means to me, really, what it is, often also called participatory science or citizen science by some. I like how in the chat some people were saying they prefer the term community science. I do too. It seems more inclusive, but it really is a form of research that provides everybody, regardless of their background, an opportunity to contribute meaningful data to further our scientific understanding of key issues. And, community science is a powerful tool for conservation, and it could generate biodiversity data at scales that are intractable by any other sort of approaches. So, some of the big takeaways here are that community science is characterized by place-based knowledge and social learning, as well as collective action and empowerment. So I think that's some of the reasons why it's incredibly significant to me and other people. So the California Firefallers Project, and that's what I'm going to be essentially talking about here. CNPS has had a fantastic history with participatory science. However, our California Firefallers Project has really taken on a new approach to keep true to community science in a way that is one, community driven, and two, community controlled. And for the past year, we have been utilizing community science to record the response of plants post fires and utilizing a common platform, iNaturalist, to basically upload all of our observations in. So next year, really want to talk about what the California Firefallers Project is and why its sort of importance. Now, California's 2020 wildfire season was the largest in recorded history. Nearly 10,000 fires burned, approximately 4 million acres burned as well, and 2021 was not any better. So to change the conversation around fires, the Firefallers Project seeks to record the response of plants in areas after wildfires. Now, we started this project back in 2020 with the fire perimeters there, and but due to the success and support of the project, we really extended this to the 2021 fires as well. So that's really exciting. And our project really seeks to do three things, right? One is to change the language around wildfires. Although we mainly focus on the ecological impacts, we also don't want to undermine the social impacts of fires as well, being that fires are multifaceted and complex, it is important to note that while they can be tremendously traumatic for humans, it can actually be a great thing for plants. And this has helped us, develop a better understanding of the relationship between plants and fires. Two is to activate and educate volunteers to increase outreach to people in science, especially those that have historically been excluded from conservation. And then three is to gather data on fire following plants to compare plants seen before and after fires by fire intensity, and also increase an understanding of what fire followers are specifically, provide crucial information on species of concern to aid in future conservation efforts and recovery. So let's see. So getting started is pretty easy, and all it takes really is an understanding of what iNaturalist is and how it's used. Now, as I mentioned before, we do utilize iNaturalist to upload our observations. So iNaturalist is essentially a website and phone app. How it works is you make an observation by taking a photo of an organism. You upload that observation onto the app where the AI will generate a suggestion for identification. And then the last thing is, the iNaturalist community can either confirm, correct, or refine your ID to help it reach research grade. Now, iNaturalist really is a global network of naturalists, community scientists, biologists, pretty much all kinds of people just contributing to biodiversity observations at global scales. And it achieves this through various sets of technological tools which can facilitate the recording, sharing, and visualization of detailed biodiversity information. And you can utilize this sort of information to and the app itself to sort of record your own observations, get help with identifications, collaborate with others to collect any kind of information on for a common purpose, or access observational data collected by others, and most importantly, just explore. And although sometimes technical and scientific, the primary goal of iNaturalist really is to connect people to nature. And here, joining the project, it's pretty easy. One is to just go out and make observations, right? Anybody can go out there and upload observations onto iNaturalist, and any observation taken within any of the fire boundaries will automatically be uploaded onto the project. As shown previously, getting set up with iNaturalist is a breeze. You just have to sign up and create an account. And if you visit our website, you can find local burn areas near you that are safe and accessible to go out and venture, make observations. The other way in which you can participate is by helping with identification. So I myself am aware that the outdoor spaces aren't accessible to everybody due to certain barriers. So even if you can't access some of these burn areas, or you don't live near any of the burn sites, you can still log on to iNaturalist and help people identify their observations, and be sure to comment and make identifications to help others. But yeah, the last way to really participate is just to help spread the word. And if you know of any individuals or programs that are interested, we would love to partner with them, or help them go out and just get started. But here are some images of some of my favorite observations. There's thousands of observations in the website that are amazing, and these are just some that I quickly selected. But right now we have, I want to say, close to 95,000 observations, and really close to that 100,000 observation goal. And the month of April was phenomenal. I believe there was somewhere around 14,000 observations in the last month alone, and really can't wait to see what May has in store. April, May, June are really big months for observations. That's when everything's popping up. Although things have been popping up a little bit early this year, it's still really nice to go out and use this as a great outlet to explore some of these burn sites and really connect with your environment. So, feel free to join our project, explore some of the burn areas, and reach out to me. Maybe we can coordinate something together. But lastly, we do have weekly to monthly challenges happening all the time, whether that is individual challenges or events. But especially right now, this is a really busy few months during the spring. So this is when we have all of our challenges up and running. Currently, we do have our Fire Poppy Cup, which just started, and it's essentially a friendly competition to encourage people to make observations and most importantly, just access outdoor spaces. And we have some really cool merch, as you can see up top. So I encourage anybody who is interested to join the project, visit our website, and find out how to win some of this merch. It's not a lot, but I do think people are out there volunteering and helping us out with our project. So it does help to sort of give back in some way. But yeah, thank you so much for hearing me out, and I'll make sure to write my email down on the chat as well as some of the information on the project so you can sort of get started. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Jose. And for those of you that are interested, I did put our the website link if you are interested in getting involved in the CNPS Firefallers Project. You'll see a lot of the information that Jose has shared there as well. And if you want to take a look at this awesome merch, again, it's wonderful, and it adds to a nice kind of community competition to get those observations. So thank you so much, Jose. And next, we're going to move into our last, certainly not least, presentation from Alexis. So let me do a quick intro for Alexis. So Alexis Sadron is an artist, naturalist, and educator who is passionate about helping people deepen their connection with nature through artistic practices. She was born and raised in California and has been lucky enough to live in several different regions of this ecologically and culturally diverse state. Her artistic and community science practices are informed by her deeply rooted belief that humans are not separate from nature, and that strengthening that relationship is crucial to moving forward in our current climate. She currently works as a seasonal interpreter for the California State Parks at Half Moon Bay State Beach, Butano State Park, and Pigeon Point Lighthouse. So please join me in welcoming Alexis. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jen, and thanks again for inviting me to be here. Let me just get my screen up. All right, does that look right? Let's go to that. Loading. All right, there we go. So yeah, as Jen mentioned, I'm an artist, educator, and California naturalist. I currently am based in Half Moon Bay, California. And I work as an interpreter for California State Parks, but today I'm not here as a representative of the state, but as myself, my whole self, with everything and all the beliefs that I bring to the table. So yeah, thanks again for inviting me and believing that my perspective brings something valuable and unique to this space and this conversation about community science. While preparing for this presentation, I spent a lot of time thinking, what is community science and how do we define that? A quick Google search brings you many different definitions. Here are a couple that I liked. One of them is from the Wyoming Biodiversity Institute. Community science is a collaborative research effort that connects scientists and science enthusiasts in the broader community. Anyone can become part of the scientific process by participating in community science projects and collecting data to answer important research questions. Another one from Xerces Society reads, a form of research that provides everyone, regardless of their background, an opportunity to contribute meaningful data to further our scientific understanding of key issues. Great, yes. So it's important and also fun to contribute to scientific research projects. As Jose mentioned, uploading your photos to iNaturalist is a really useful tool to help gather research for important projects like Firefallers. And I actually started one at one of the parks that I work at called Butano Biodiversity, because Butano State Park was one of the redwood parks also affected by the 2020 CZU lightning complex fire. And there are also all sorts of other platforms like Zooniverse, which we can come back to later. But I think that community science is about more than just helping scientists out. I mean, it's in the name, it's one part science and one part community. So that got me thinking, what does that mean for the community, and which community are we talking about? So I can't see any of you, but humor me. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes and open your mind's eye. What do you see when I ask you to visualize your community? Take a few seconds to think about it. Visualize your community. Notice what pops into your head first. Was it your immediate household, the neighborhood you live in, the city, the county? Did your community include humans, pets, plants, the birds outside your window? What about the insects in your garden or crawling somewhere in your house? Or how about the weeds growing out of the sidewalk? So I never thought I would be the type of person to have a favorite quote, but in the last couple of years, I have found one that has made me that person. I now have a favorite quote because I feel like it sums up my core beliefs really well. And it is, oh, wrong one. It is this one. In the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand. And we will understand only what we are taught. And this was said by Baba Dioum. If you know the correct pronunciation of that, feel free to let me know. But he was a Senegalese forestry engineer, and he made this statement in a paper in 1968 at the General Assembly of the IUCN. And I really like this quote, because it implies the consequences of a human-centric outlook and simultaneously provides a roadmap to a more holistic, interconnected perspective. So community science is important not just for scientists, but for all of us, because we are in the midst of climate change, and we, humans, plants, insects, animals, are all in this together at this point. We, humans, are either going to change or we're not. And we, the interconnected we, the ecosystem of Earth, we will collectively face the natural consequences, whichever way we go. But if you're listening to this webinar, I'm probably preaching to the choir. So it's important for us to learn about the plants and animals in our community for science's sake, and it is also important for our own sake. It's important for us to make connections to and build relationships with the other living beings, flora and fauna in our community. And what better way to make connections with someone than to spend time with them? One of the simplest, I think, easiest ways to spend time with a plant, we're going to talk about plants specifically because CNPS, is by drawing it. And through the act of drawing, if you're choosing to try to capture the subject as it appears in real life, or if you're going for a more abstract depiction, you are still either way practicing close observation. Maybe you are counting how many leaves it has, how many petals it has. You're looking closely to see patterns. What do the veins in the leaves look like? How are the leaves arranged on the stem? Is there a stem at all? Does the stem have a distinct shape? Does it have hair on it? Does it have a specific color? And as you are looking closely and noticing these small details, you are building a relationship with this plant by getting to know it rather intimately. Dare I say that this is an act of love. And this is an act of close observation, of documenting what you see, of collecting data, just like a scientist. I have always loved to draw, and I've always been drawn to plants, but it really wasn't until, oops, did I skip one? No. It wasn't until 2019 that I really began my naturalist journey in earnest and got to combine my two loves. So I took the California Naturalist class, which is certified through the UC Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. I think I got that right. I took it through Pasadena City College, and we never met inside a classroom, always outside. And the biggest part of the class was keeping a field notebook. Our teacher encouraged us to use all kinds of modes of data keeping: maps, tables, writings, pressings, and drawings. What I found was that the plants and animals that I drew, I immediately felt a more personal connection to. I would get excited every time I saw them again, and I more easily remembered their names. That in combination with iNaturalist, that's what helped me to learn the names, and then drawing them solidified it. One thing I can tell you from personal experience is this: something magical happens when you start learning plant names, because it's like you're making a new friend. You introduce yourself, you get to know their name, and you get to recognize what they look like, just like remembering someone's face. And then you start to see them everywhere, and you start to appreciate their presence. Maybe you even start to greet them. And from there, a kind of kinship grows. And then every time you step outside, you find yourself surrounded by plant companions, and you're never alone. So these are examples from my nature journal. I started keeping a nature journal with, the field journal in my 2019 California Naturalist class, and it's really evolved from there. The one on the left, I spent about 45 minutes to an hour just sitting with this one bristlecone pine. And, as I'm sitting there looking at it and looking at all the curves and the lines and the bits that look dead and the bits that look alive, and wondering, the history of this plant, it's hard to leave after a certain point, and you just feel connected to this. I mean, these are the oldest trees on Earth, and I just wonder, how much can I learn from them? So that's that one. And then the one on the right is an oak tree at Pinnacles. I think I spent about 2 hours staring at this tree and drawing it. And afterwards, I just went up to it and put my hand on the trunk and thanked it for its time. And it just was it was a really spiritual moment, but also, I don't know, it was going off script here, but these connections are real, and they are forged through drawing. Yes, okay. And also, by forming these relationships, I feel that it's also a way to say thank you. Plants provide us with so much: clean air, food, shelter, clothing, solace. And if it was a human friend offering us these gifts, we wouldn't hesitate to say thank you and express our appreciation. So I feel that the very least we can do is learn their names so that we can give a full and proper thank you, because plants are living, breathing beings too, not in the same way that we are, which is why we sometimes overlook their aliveness, though probably not most people in this webinar, but they are alive, and they've been around for much longer than we have. So I think that Baba Dioum is right. In order to mobilize people in the fight against climate change, the first thing they need is something to fight for. People will fight for what they love, and drawing is a way to spark that love through the creation of a close relationship, and it's a way to document observations and patterns over time in your own backyard. I often, if I feel like I need to get outside, I need to nature journal, I'll just go to my local park or my backyard. So this was in my neighborhood, right outside the door, or right in my backyard. I spent half an hour studying the poppies that grew there, which look for some reason very different than the ones that grow in other parks. And that's Quarry Park is also nearby my house, and I go to the same places and I document, how it changes over time, which is similar to repeating, an experiment in science. So there's a lot of parallels between nature journaling and the scientific process. And of course, sharing your observations is also part of that process. And there are plenty of Facebook groups to add your drawings to, like the Nature Journal Club, and like plant ID groups. But my favorite way to share is through teaching my friends and family plant names and fun facts, and by spreading the love of nature. People have told me that it's contagious. Okay, that was my timer. I'll wrap it up now. But science and scientific literacy is paramount in the fight against climate change. Community science is a huge part of that. But community, finding, creating, nurturing community with kinship, respect, and reciprocal relationships is paramount to everything. And drawing, or whatever kind of art you want to create, is a gateway to that. And you don't even have to be good at it. You just need to be open to making new plant friends and learning more about them. Yeah, and these are examples of me bringing that to students that I taught in my previous role. And yeah, that is everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexis. When you get a chance, please read all of the wonderful comments that some of our viewers are sharing with you and for you. And thank you to Ashley and Jose as well for bringing in just different perspectives of what community science means and how people can get involved in the scientific process, whether that's through collecting data, if that's something that you enjoy and you want, whether that's through going for hikes in areas where you might see something new pop up, or whether that it's if you want to just stay in your own garden and maybe take a closer look at a native plant that you have there. How is it changing? How is it growing? How can you capture that through art? And Alexis obviously shared her love of drawing with us, but that can be kind of transformed into any art mediums as well. So again, just a kind of a wonderful holistic look at how many different avenues there are to engage in community science and to engage with native plants in California. There's no one right way. We can all learn and appreciate native plants in the ways that kind of speak to us. All right, so we are going to move into our panel discussion, and I'll hopefully get to some of those questions in our Q&A. I see those there. I'm not ignoring them, but let's get started with our panel section. All right. Okay. So we're going to start off with our first question, and this is open to everyone. Ashley, Alexis, Jose, please feel free to chime in. But why is community science important to you? And you know, you all kind of touched on that a little bit. But if there's anything more that you'd like to share, or anything that you left out of your presentations, this is the chance to share that. Why is it important to you?
I guess I'll start it off just because I didn't touch too much on this. But community science is important to me because I was able to bring my mom out with me. When Alexis was talking about, envision your community, she was the first one who popped up. So it was great to have her with me and see her realize kind of more of what I do. That was awesome. So yeah, just bringing my community with me is important.
I can talk a little bit about this too. Yeah, Alexis, I think that was, same as Ashley said, that part where you talked about envisioning your community. I think one of the reasons why community science is so important to me is because, growing up, I never really considered myself a scientist. And these sort of projects and just community events sort of were the first introduction that I really had to any sort of scientific experience. And yeah, so I'm just really thankful for that. And then like Ashley said, I was able to take my family out to some of these places, and it's really nice to see them in some of these burn areas actually like participating and connecting with nature by taking pictures of what they're seeing, and it's just really nice to be able to see that. So.
Yeah, to add on to that, the first thing that comes to mind for me too is my family. Like I have a 9-year-old niece and a 6-year-old nephew, and they love being outside and they love learning about it. And I feel like community science builds bridges between people again. Like our society is very generally, not true for everyone, but individualistic. That's the word I'm looking for, I think. And this community science is something that brings people together for a common cause and something for people to get excited about together. And I've seen that happen in like my 9-year-old niece. Like she just has that spark, and it's really inspiring. And yeah.
Great, thank you all. Yeah, I think you're hitting on something really important, that community science just kind of spans through generations. It can definitely connect, someone very little or someone that's elderly in your life, and just kind of bring everyone together in just kind of this common goal and appreciation of what's around them, whether that's a plant, whether that's another living thing that they're interested in. All right, so how do our own garden spaces play a role in community science? Many of our viewers have their own garden spaces or are interested in creating their own garden spaces, big or small. So I think this question might kind of speak to our audience here. And how can people actively participate in community science through interaction with their own spaces? So we talked a lot about, I know, Jose, you mentioned it, like accessibility to some of the burn sites and how that might not be available and possible for all people. So how can they use what's around them to start engaging in community science?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think, accessibility is really a key issue with community science. And like you mentioned, Jen, you can get started pretty much anywhere. And if it's your backyard, you can get started with, there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with like repeat photography. To keep track of your gardens. You can practice taking pictures on iNaturalist. Just make sure you click on the cultivated little check mark there. But yeah, there's plenty of apps like Seek by iNaturalist as well that you can utilize to help you with plant identification. And it's just a really good way of just, going outside and connecting. So.
Adding on to what Jose said, going out into your backyard and just using iNaturalist to help you identify not only the plants that you're growing, but the visitors, the insects, and the birds. And I like to document it in iNaturalist and in my nature journal, which is something I will come back to again and again, and just drawing something that is maybe new and blooming, and helping you build those relationships and observing patterns over time. Yeah, it's a simple tool. All you need is a sketchbook and a pencil and colors if you want, and just go out into your own backyard. Or if you don't have a backyard, there's plants everywhere. They are so resilient. They grow out of the cracks in the sidewalk, and even though most people would call them weeds, they are still plants, and what they're doing is pretty incredible by surviving there.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, our own kind of spaces are kind of a sounding board for what we can and can't, or what not can and can't, but what we want to do with plants, whether that's through interacting with iNaturalist, whether that's just kind of sitting and appreciating the plants around us, or whether that's through artistic endeavors like drawing or sculpting, whatever it is that you're kind of engaged in. Wonderful. All right. So in your experience, how can community science impact people at a local level? We talked a little bit about some of the benefits for the scientific community, and can we expand a little bit more to talk just about how it impacts people where they are?
Yeah. I know with us, with the milkweed treatments, that might change how we manage the milkweed in the national parks where we're at, where I'm currently have a relationship with right now. But in terms of a bigger picture, it's impacted local indigenous community because some folks unfortunately haven't had access to milkweed. So it might be the first time they're feeling it or touching it. So that's huge and so impactful for a person. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think with this, how has community science impacted people at local levels, specifically with firefallers? I just read in the chat how fire has impacted somebody there, and after talking to and connecting with a lot of people through this project, I've learned that this really does this project has really created an avenue or some sort of outlet for people to go back to the area, their communities where they're from, and see sort of the restoration that's happening firsthand. And I think that's a really good way for a lot of people to sort of cope with some of the social impacts that fires do have on us. So yeah, I think that's just one of the many ways that it can impact people at a local level.
Right. Thank you for sharing that perspective on just, when you think of, or at least when I think of community science, it can kind of span across states, it can span across countries, and sometimes it's nice to be reminded that community science can impact at just kind of this small level where you can see changes or differences in your own neighborhoods, in your own backyards, in the spaces that you like to visit, in the public spaces that you like to visit. So there is kind of this both local and global impact of community science. All right. So how does community science, in your experience, in your opinion, how does it help to support the larger scientific community and contribute to ongoing research projects? And this might be kind of a great opportunity to talk a little bit more about iNaturalist, the Firefallers program. And Ashley, I'd love to hear more about how the Milkweed project contributed to some of the larger research.
Yeah, I guess I did touch into that on the last question, my bad. But yeah, so we'll see what the treatment looks like in terms of management, but also in terms of things like the Liberty Canyon Wildlife Crossing. We found a milkweed population of woolly pod or Catolo milkweed that kind of follows that same distribution. So they're going to put milkweed on the crossing to try to get it established on the crossing, which is really interesting. That the crossing is not only just for, P22 and the mountain lions and all them, but also other animals like frogs. I'm not frogs, but like birds, bugs, all the things, which is really cool.
Okay, and Alexis, you shared about a Facebook group where you can kind of talk and share different illustrations and things like that. What's happening in that group? How are these illustrations being used or talked about? And does that kind of contribute to any larger conversations around the certain plants or animals or insects that are being shared on that page?
Yeah, so it's called the Nature Journal Club on Facebook. And I think there's like a bunch of different regional groups too, like regional nature journal clubs. And people post their drawings. And to be honest, I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook or in the group that much, but I do know that there is always a discussion under each post. People sometimes ask questions along with their posts, like, oh, hey, I saw this in my yard today. I don't really know what it was, but I drew it and I asked all these questions. And there's so many people in the group. People will chime in with answers. There are scientists in the group, teachers. I mean, nature journaling spans across all professions. There are no boundaries there. So yeah, it brings people together. Community members get answers that might be more definitive than their guesses from, researchers, scientists, people who are experts. Yeah, so that, yeah, I wish I could speak more to it, but like I said, I don't spend a ton of time on Facebook.
No worries. Thank you, Alexis, for sharing just what you know in general. Great. And let's go into our last question here. So what advice would you give to someone that is looking to explore ways to get involved with community science? So there are a lot of folks on this webinar today. How can we get them to think about community science and get involved in their own neighborhoods, in their own spaces?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I think a really good way to get started with community science is just going outside, and however you sort of connect with nature, go ahead and do that. And then also another good advice is maybe looking up your local organizations to see if they do have any sort of community science project or education programming. They usually do a lot of really cool stuff. And then, really, I've said this plenty of times throughout this presentation, but a really good way to get started is really to just hop on, go outside and just start making observations on iNaturalist. We recently just this past weekend had the City Nature Challenge, and that's a really good way to sort of get started with things like this, right? Things that are like global that anyone can participate, but like really just going outside, if you do go to your local park or anything like that, making observations and uploading on iNaturalist is a really good way to getting started, because you never know, there might be a project ongoing. And then another really cool thing about iNaturalist is that you can explore the app and explore projects near you. So that's a really fun way to sort of get involved, because you can see what ongoing projects are around you that you can sort of participate in. And those sort of projects have information on the organizations or individuals who sort of set that project up themselves. So.
Wonderful. So I put the link in for the City Nature Challenge there, which Jose just mentioned. It's an active community science project that's going on now, and those dates are there on that website. Alexis or Ashley, do you have any kind of last thoughts to share with this question?
Yeah, I would similarly just encourage people to go outside, and maybe when you go outside, take a sketchbook with you and don't be afraid. I mean, this is easier said than done. Don't be afraid of the blank page. Don't worry about making a pretty picture. Just focus on observing. And if you do feel intimidated by that, I put a couple links in the chat, the Nature Journal Club group on Facebook, and John Muir Laws is like a wealth of information on nature journaling. He is like the guy. I've watched a lot of his videos, and it's really helpful for beginning that practice and building that relationship.
Yeah, I would just say whatever calls to you or whatever gets you motivated to get outside, lean into that. For me, it was hiking and taking pictures of all the plants I saw along the way. So yeah, just find what fits for you and dive right in.
Nice. Thank you so much for just sharing those tips and tricks that have worked for you. Hopefully they'll work for someone else, right? There's so many avenues that we can take to really engage with the natural world around us and engage in community science. Great. So I just briefly, before we head out for our evening, I do want to share that we have another Naturehood webinar coming up next month on June 2nd at the same time from 5:30 to 6:30, and it will be all about seeds. So if you're interested in learning more about seeds, that's the webinar for you. But thank you all so much for joining us today, and thank you so much to our wonderful presenters, Ashley, Jose, and Alexis, for sharing your wealth of knowledge and just the way that you connect with nature. I think a lot of folks found it very inspiring, as I can see in the chat here. And I encourage you all to try your hand at community science and see what avenues you'd like to take for that. So again, thank you all. Please have a wonderful evening, and look out for our next webinar on June 2nd. Thank you, everyone. Bye, bye. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. And I'll end it here. Thank you to all of our panelists, and have a good evening.